one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think the floor's tipped. Okay, good evening and welcome to the November 5th, 2018 Board of Selectmen's meeting. On the agenda this evening, we have public service announcements. We have a public hearing for a forest cutting plan. We have a hearing for a reinstatement of Class 2 license. We have a request for use of the senior center lawn. We have a request for an abatement appeal for water and sewer charges. We have a few donations to accept, a resignation, an appointment, 2 appointments. And then we have town administrator's update, old business, new business, correspondence, approval of minutes, and then citizens forum, and then adjournment. Priscilla, do you have any?
No.
Chase?
No.
Mike?
No.
Mary?
I just wanted to thank everybody that participated in the Halloween night festivities, especially the Fire Department Association, the Lions Club. The children, I think, really enjoyed having cookies and hot chocolate, and it was...
It's always a big hit.
It was successful. I didn't dress up this year, but I still attended.
You had a smile on
I
your
had a
face, so
smile.
that's good. Okay, the annual Christmas tree lighting is going to be Friday, November 23rd at 6 p.m. That's the day after Thanksgiving. There's a lot going on. Santa Claus, Tantasco Corraliers, Kids Rock, Winter Tree Scavenger Hunt Kickoff, Holly the Elf, the Public House will be there, Annie's Country Kitchen, Lulu's Accessories, Sturbridge Republican Committee, Sturbridge Fire Department, Boy Scout Troop Number 161, other local area emergents, and there's a Santa's mailbox, so you can bring your letter to Santa, and a coloring contest, so that'll be fun. And there's also an open house for the Chilia House, which is the new addition to the Public House, and the public is welcome. That's Thursday, November 29th at 3:30 p.m. Guest arrival, 4 p.m. ribbon cutting and speeches, 4:30 tours, entertainment, and light fair. Also a reminder about voting is tomorrow, 6:30 a.m. till 8 p.m. at the Old Sturbridge Village. Okay, well, it's not quite 6:35, so we have a minute. We can maybe squeeze in a... Okay, if we jump down, there's a resignation of Tim Bardsley from the Board of Registrars. Is there a motion to accept the resignation?
So moved.
Is there
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Now, on the appointment for it, were there any other people interested in it? Just,
That was the only
oh,
one.
okay.
The only one that the
Yeah,
board
no,
sent me.
because usually we've gotten two and we interview them and
Oh.
pick. Okay, so the only person interested appears to be Janet Guerin, who is a Republican, and it is a Republican slot that's open. So is there a motion to appoint Janet Guerin to the Board of Registrars?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay. And, Janae, when you write that up, don't put "we concur with that," because it's strictly our appointment.
Okay.
It's the only one we make all on our own, other than the town administrator. Okay, we still have second. Is there a motion to accept a donation of $500 from Frost to the Trails Committee for the purchase of tools?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, is there a motion to accept a donation of $300 from New England Arms Society to the Sturbridge Police Department?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. It is now 6:35. Mary?
In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 132, Sections 40 to 46, the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on the petition of James DeMaio, Massachusetts licensed forester, for a logging permit for approximately 26 acres of land on Holland Road in Fiskdale, owned by David Peterkin and Roxanne Smith. The hearing will be held on November 5, 2018, at 6:50, that says. Is that right? So, PM, got to wait 5 more minutes.
Oh, it's on our schedule for 6:35.
Oh, but
Well,
We got to wait.
we
have to wait.
Unfortunately, yeah.
we have to wait.
You want me to read correspondence?
Yeah.
Just 5 minutes.
15,
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No.
15.
Yeah.
15 minutes.
Yeah, so you can do correspondence.
The correspondence for November 5 is October 23, Northeast Energy Center, a notice of adjudication and public comment hearing. October 26 from the Mass Department of Transportation, a notice of a Chapter 90 apportionment of $517,975 for fiscal year 2019. October 31st from CMRPC, a public meeting notice and agenda in regards to the draft 2018 CMMPO Regional Bicycle Plan. November 1 from the Last Screen Valley, thank you letter for the donation and support for the Walktober program. November 1 from Charter Communications regarding upcoming changes to the service. And November 1 from Southern Worcester County, a comprehensive economic development strategy.
Okay, on that October 23rd from Northeast Energy Center, I don't know if you read the telegram yesterday, but there was a big story on it in the business section. I do know that our town planner has a lot of information on it, and she probably will be attending the public hearing in Charlton, too. So if anybody wants to go, or if anybody has any input, comments, concerns, you could get in touch with Jean. Just move this.
The date and place of that public hearing again was
You got it
Good.
in the letter?
in the letter.
December, I think.
November 13th, Tuesday at 7 PM. Charlton Municipal Offices, Board of Selectmen Meeting Room. Okay, so doesn't abut our line, but the properties do abut. So,
Madam Chair,
yes?
there is on the preferred alternative, there's a gas light, interconnecting gas line
Yeah.
that goes along our easterly border, and the metering would be done right near the Sturbridge town line. So, I mean, it is very close to,
Yeah, that's
Down to
their
Sturbridge.
alternative site. Yeah.
no, that's their preferred site.
Oh, I
Their
thought you said alternative.
The
Yeah.
alternative site's by the Millennium Power.
Yeah,
That's their, and,
Yeah.
which seems to make more sense to me, but I'd like to hear from some of the people in that neighborhood, especially, how they feel about it.
well, it's in the paper and,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not, yeah.
So, you gonna go to the hearing?
I was thinking about it.
Yeah. No, I think the planning board chairman's going with
So there
Jean.
won't be a planning board meeting that night, probably.
Right, they had nothing
Yeah.
scheduled anyways.
I think that's their night.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
I think it'd be well worth our while to learn more about it, because it is a rather large facility. that
oh, it is. I mean, when
Going-
I read a big packet on it, and the only question I have is the number of trucks. I mean, I could figure it out if I knew how much one truck held, because they gave how many gallons and everything, but, so,
Yeah, it's not normal for us to have liquid natural gas.
No.
Liquefied natural gas running around on our roadways in this part of the
I know, even when they bring it into the harbors, they have boats that guide them in and everything. So, we shall see what they say. Okay.
Is Jean planning on speaking at the meeting? Did the planning board take a position?
No, well, it's really not up to them to
It's
take a
not, right.
position.
Well, no, but
It's another town.
it's not binding, but I didn't know if
Yeah.
they could
No,
still-
because they don't have a meeting between now and the public hearing.
Now on the 13th, yeah.
I mean, people certainly have the right to express
Their own personal
Yeah,
right.
opinions.
yeah, so, okay, let's see. Okay, okay, we need a member from the board to meet with the Sturbridge School Systems Finance Advisory Committee. They requested. Is anybody willing? Priscilla?
Yeah.
Okay, does somebody want to nominate Priscilla for that position to the Finance Advisory Committee?
Yeah, it is. I did it last year, and it's really educational. I will nominate Priscilla to that duty this year, and maybe we can, from year to year, we can swap around, because it was a good education to get into the school budget a little bit more in depth.
I've done them, so I enjoy going to these because I've done my own school budgets, yeah, yeah.
So
Okay, is
I'd
there,
I'd nominate Priscilla Kimmis for the liaison to, the Selectmen's liaison to the school budget committee.
okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0. We still have 10 minutes.
Second, do my report.
Yes,
Not sure it's going to take 10 minutes, but I'll,
you could
Take some
start,
time
we
off
might
the
as well
clock.
really,
yeah, the first,
really mess up my
Yeah.
pile here.
sorry.
No problem.
The first item I had is the pending vacancy for our DPW director, Greg Morris, which I believe I'll let you know about. Fortunately for him, I guess unfortunately for the town, he's chosen to retire on by December 21st, I think it's when his last day is. And I did research in the charter to see what the procedure is, and I should have a copy of section 6.5 for the vacancy. It does require the town administrator to appoint a 5-member search committee consisting of the town administrator, 2 voters not currently employed by the town, and 2 members qualified to assist in the search process, which are all appointed by the town administrator. So at this point, I would ask the board to make notice for the public.
Right, and also,
Come forward.
can you put it on the,
Yeah, well, we'll do that. We'll put it on the board.
okay.
So,
And people always get confused about 2 voters not currently employed and then 2 other members qualified. It could be somebody from out of town even. When we had the fire chief search, we had a fire chief from another town that sat in on the search.
So that
Okay.
process will begin.
Right. Okay, and the advertisement, you have the time frame on how long it should be up
Yes,
before?
we have it. We have that too as well, and we'll follow the steps.
Yeah, okay.
The next item is actually the Northeast Energy Center, which we just talked a little bit about. The representative from the company stopped into my office last week and gave us the information. I gave you a copy of it as well that outlines what they're planning on doing in Charlton and the public hearing. I don't really have much more to add, except that, that they have the public hearing, and they're planning on talking to our town planner, Gene Corbin, about the process and anybody else. And I'm sure they would be willing to come in if the board would like to have them to come in and talk to us about the project. If that's something if you'd like to happen, I'll try to work on that. But we'll have the public hearing anyways, as noted. So I don't have much more information, just the size and what they're, and the alternative that's been mentioned before. Complete Streets meeting update. The town is now becoming a complete street community, and we had a session with several department heads, public safety and planning, conservation, to working with Central Mass Planning Commission on this project. And they sat down and were looking at maps in different areas that would be helpful to have better safety and traffic and And that's part of that process, and you know, I'm sure it'll be ongoing for a while before we get to the point where we can start doing the actual work. The Mass Municipal Association meeting, I did attend a meeting 2 weeks ago, and it had to do with emergency management, so I invited Kevin Felchuk. He was also, the Mass Municipal Association did say we could invite people who are involved in emergency management, so it was a good meeting. Kevin did receive some information on, you know, how to help prepare for emergencies. I know the town does a great job. I've had a few meetings with the public safety people, and you really do have your act together when it comes to emergency management. But this was an opportunity to try to learn a little bit more, and hopefully that'll be a help in the future. Sturbridge Town Association, I attended one of their meetings recently to just have an idea of what their concept is. Very interesting, actually a very busy committee, you know, as I'm learning. And they have many projects. At this point, they're actually beginning to look for a budget for next year. So they'll be notifying individuals who have been interested in what they should do for applying for the budget. But it was quite the committee, quite the things you do for tourism in the community. And also the Disability Commission. I did reach out after the meeting that we had 2 weeks ago on the Disability Commission. The town does not have a commission in place, and I checked to see the process with the state agency, and it would have to go to town meeting to be accepted. So we have some information in the office, and we'll have it ready for your Springtown meeting if you wish to go forward with that.
Okay, isn't it rather a large committee?
No, I didn't even notice to see how large it was. I just got the process for how great it was.
No, I thought I read
I
some.
don't think it has to be a
I was gonna
large
say on
committee,
a town
but,
level, I wouldn't think it would have to be.
yeah.
Well, I don't know, there was something someplace, I thought it said 13 members.
It might be
And-
up to.
Two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of that, so many have to be people with disabilities.
Disabilities, right.
They would like, they would
Yeah, so we
recommend
can,
that.
Yeah.
we can look at it during the
Right, that would be something.
winter and see.
And like I said, you really can't do anything until the Springtown meeting
Right.
forward. But that is, want to let you know, that's the process. And the town currently does not have a disability
No.
commission.
No.
That's it.
Okay, any questions to Ted on that? Okay, we still have 4 minutes. Sally? I'm sorry? Our agenda's a little mixed up because time-wise, so I hate to rush you, but if you'd like to come down now and speak to us.
I didn't know I was presenting, I thought you were just answering questions.
Oh, well, in general, you can use the mic and just introduce yourself for the
Okay,
TV audience at home.
Oh,
And then
God, you had to say that, right?
before you leave, could you please sign in so we know who's here?
So my name is Sally Green. I own Alternatives for Health here in Sturbridge, and we're trying to sponsor what we're going to call an Herb Fest, which is an educational gathering. And we've been coordinating with the senior center, and that's fine, but we need the outside for vendors and food vendors. So they don't, they have auspices over that, so that's why I'm here. We didn't know where to go next to get
Right.
that permission.
Yeah.
So I contacted Mary, and she suggested that I come and see what the deal was.
Right, and the date is in October.
Yeah,
2000.
October next year, a whole year.
19.
Yeah.
So we have plenty of time for planning and that kind of thing. We also, we know we need to get insurance for the senior center, and there's Arlen Tool and Die across the street, has adequate parking. They're not used on Saturday, so we're going to approach them for parking and obviously hire a policeman for crossing.
Okay, any questions from the board? No? Mike?
Well, it seems like the Herb Fest is, centered around health and wellness, and, I think that's a great place to have it, is at a senior center.
Well, the senior center has 5 rooms that we can use as classrooms. Any place else, like if we had it on the common, we would have no classrooms.
Right.
And that's the whole point of having it. So that's why we, went there first.
Okay. So is somebody willing to make a motion then?
So moved?
Is there Any more discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0.
You're
Thank you,
certainly-
Sally.
I was expecting you to say next month or something.
No.
Or yesterday, or something.
No, yeah, it was supposed to be last week.
Yeah.
Have you,
Thank you so much.
did you do it, is this something you've done in the past?
We haven't. There's a couple in Boston, there's a big one in Marlboro this weekend, and we just felt it was time to do Central
Out here.
Mass and try and cultivate some, it might grow much bigger than the senior center eventually, that would be our goal, but,
Right.
we're kind of operating on a shoestring budget this year, so where we don't have to do anything with insurance there, it was great. So, will you let me know if I need to do anything else for the grounds or whatever?
No, that's about, you have your
I have permission.
bases covered.
Awesome.
You have permission, and you're in contact with the police chief. and-
Yep.
Hopefully, I'll remember.
Hopefully you have good weather. Or you
Your
can,
mouth to God's ears.
you can rent a good, huge tent and you'll be fine.
Well, yeah. Thanks so
Okay,
much.
thanks, Sally.
Thanks.
Okay, it is 6:50
Right.
now.
All right, I'll read
So
these.
read the,
See? I had it
6:51.
nice and available.
Yes.
I know,
Thank you.
oh, here.
I got it,
Awesome,
thank you,
yeah.
Mike. In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 132, Sections 40 to 46, the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on the petition of James DeMayo,
Like Cinco de Mayo.
Massachusetts licensed forester for a logging permit for approximately 26 acres of land on Holland Road, Fiskdale, owned by David Peterkin and Roxanne Smith. The hearing will be held on November 5, 2018, at 6:50 PM at the Veterans Memorial Hall, Sturbridge Town Hall, 308 Main Street, Sturbridge, and dated October 18th, 2018.
Okay, would you please introduce yourself for the TV audience?
Sure. My name is James DeMayo. I'm a licensed forester. I serve as the Peterkin agent and Smith agent. I live at 96 Hunt Road in West Brookfield.
Okay,
David Peterkin, 70 Holland Road.
okay, do you want to just give us a synopsis of what it is you're
This
doing?
is a 26-acre harvest, and this is in response to a number of environmental concerns. There's about 4 or 5 acres of cleanup from a tornado. We want to, the material has fallen down, and we want to just chip it or bunch it up in order to have regeneration in wildlife. We're also looking at about 2 acres of cedar tree harvest adjacent to the tornado, because a lot of the trees were damaged or broken. There's about 5 acres of commercial thinning. We're thinning from below, and we're removing the lowest quality trees in favor of the highest quality trees. Then there's another approximately 15 acres, and unfortunately, the ash have died. Gypsy moth has actually killed a number of oak and hemlock trees, unfortunately, so we're salvaging and thinning the remaining forest. And basically, that's it.
Okay, questions from the board?
From the plan, it looks like there's 2 locations that the logging trucks would be coming out onto Holland Road. One in front of the house lot, and another one up further. Is that up
correct.
around? Is that an existing driveway?
Yes, it is. I coordinated with the highway supervisor, and that was used in the past.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll post the bond to protect the road. I flagged the location of that second landing, and that was used in the past, 15 years ago.
Or longer.
15, 20 years ago, that was the landing, and the highway supervisor was familiar with it. I took pictures, gave the pictures to the highway supervisor.
Normally, as one of the conditions of this permit that we issued, we asked for coordination between the school buses and the logging operations. And I just wanted to point out that there's several Holland school buses that travel this route too. So if you could, just check in with them so that they know. And they probably have the same hours as the Sturbridge buses anyhow, but I think it would be just
Yeah, we,
you know.
oh, I didn't mean to interrupt, Mike, but we will give you a whole list of all the conditions, and that's
Okay.
always one of the
Yeah,
conditions.
but
And the hours of operation, too.
I just didn't want
Yeah.
to, I just didn't want to forget our neighbors in Holland, because they use that route, and I've seen their buses, moving at the speed limit there, so it's a downhill grade where you'd be coming out, so it'd be good to let them know, so to be as safe as we possibly can.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions?
That's
When do you plan on beginning our,
I'll be very honest about this. I've delayed meeting with you because the weather conditions are so horrible. And with this wet weather, we're going to delay till it's either totally frozen ground, which is very unlikely with all the moisture, or whenever it dries out. So I'm coming for you now, because if it does, if the soil conditions warrant the harvest, we want to get in there. But right now, I'm looking 3, 4, 5 months from now,
Yeah.
to be honest. It's not, the conditions are so poor that it'd be irresponsible to do harvesting now. And Mr. Peterkin understands that.
And I think
Anything-
conservation also, exactly what
Yeah.
you said, requested either dry or frozen soil because of the wetlands.
Absolutely.
Nothing else from the board?
Did he get a copy of the conservation approving it? Just that it talks about having it dry.
Yes, any conservation. It's in the package. I'm not sure-
Yeah, but
The applicant
proponent.
should have a copy of the,
Did you go to Conservation Commission?
May 3rd,
yeah,
So they-
it's been a while.
they approved it.
Oh, no, I
Yeah.
know, but they just told us, I think he should still have one.
Sure.
The board got
Give him a
too.
copy.
Yeah, just so you know what we saw from conservation.
Okay.
Okay, just
But
curious.
it's a good, favorable report.
Take this one,
Okay, thank you.
okay? Okay, it is,
I'm sorry. How long will this operation last? I know you can do during frozen weather.
I suspect this will take about 20 to 25 days. It's not a very
Okay.
huge harvest, and so it's a very small operation. So, unless there's other events or breakdowns, so about a month or so, it's a small operation.
Thank you.
okay, it is a public hearing, so is there anyone in the public who has a comment or a question? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved?
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor? 5-0. Okay, now, Janae, you don't offhand have the list of the conditions we usually put on, do you?
I don't.
Well, we'll try to think of them.
It's probably in
But
our
we'll
policy
add-
book, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You
But-
know where that, Leon had put together all of our
Yeah.
policies, and that's probably the easiest thing for you to do, is just
grab that.
I want to thank you. Can I come up and get the?
Oh, sure, yes.
We did sign in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
good luck, safe
Thank you very
travels.
much.
If you hold on a minute, you'll get the conditions.
Yeah, we'll put them in the motion.
Okay, we'll follow her.
I think she'll bring it out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just a one-page,
yeah, it's
List.
just like 4 or 5, the hours, the buses,
Don't we have to vote on it?
holidays.
We have to vote on it, right?
Oh, we have to vote, yeah. And we always put it in the motion,
Right.
yeah, so,
so we need a copy too.
still got a minute to the next hearing, so.
Yeah, but that's, it's not really a public hearing,
Oh, right,
it's just a hearing. Yeah,
right.
yeah, Janae said she just put that, but it's.
Just after I talk to you.
Oh, okay.
probably make the motion just subject to our conditions.
Based on our policy.
Yeah.
We all know what they are.
Attach it. So is somebody willing to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the forest cutting plan of James DeMaio, subject to our standard conditions that we will present to the petitioners tonight.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, we'll get to that. Nothing too difficult. There's the $5,000 road bond and
No cutting on Sundays.
Sundays or holidays, and the hours 7 till, how did we finally word
Dawn
it?
to dusk, pretty much when you can't see, it's over. True. Kind of common sense, but we decided to put it in writing.
We have trouble with common
Maybe
sense
not all of
sometimes.
us have the common sense of you, but.
Oh,
Moving along.
yeah. There's no game to watch.
I can't find it in the book.
Oh, no?
No. What's it under?
Well, logging,
Yeah, it's not in the book.
oh,
What
we'll find
We'll
it.
find it.
We'll get you a copy, okay?
We pretty much summarized it, but somebody
Yeah.
will send it to you.
Okay, I
Okay.
understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pray for good weather. Okay. Check off. Okay, next we have a hearing concerning the reinstatement of Class 2 license for Robert Kasem. Good evening.
All right, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good. James Arod is on behalf of Bert Chasm and the Sturbridge Auto Sales.
Okay.
Mr. Chasm
And
is,
don't forget to sign in
Yes.
too.
Mr. Chasm is here also. There you
Oh,
go,
yes.
So we are here today on reinstating Sturbridge Auto Sales license to sell cars. As you may recall, even better than I would, back in July, this board revoked the license.
We suspended.
Suspended the license that Mr. Chasm has had for at least 15 years here in town. And the basis of the suspension was assertions by the state police, the division that covers these types of licenses, that Mr. Chasm had played fast and loose with salvage titles in the state of Vermont. Now, at that time, we speculated there'd been no charges had been gone through due process, no evidence was provided, which was able to be counter-attested to by Mr. Chasm, and unfortunately, Mr. Chasm was not represented by counsel. And the hard truth in life is that's just not a good idea. So what did happen after the suspension was due process occurred. The Dudley District Court went through the machinations, and at a hearing which finally happened on October 12th, not only were the charges dismissed, there was never even a trial that went forward. They were dismissed out of hand. There was no evidence provided or forwarded by the state police to support their charges, and indeed, they made it. I was there in court when the dismissal occurred. So the reason the suspension occurred back in July was because of concerns that Mr. Chasm had taken salvage titles and run them through the state of Vermont, which has a much more flexible procedure. I admit I had to work myself up on how the procedure works, but it turns out there was nothing to work on because it never happened. Mr. Chasm is a gruff personality in a good way, and unfortunately, when you communicate with state police, sometimes there are frictions that occur. And I believe what happened then was the state police, the troopers read the situation wrong, and what's good about our system of laws is when you end up in court, things become clarified very fast. And they couldn't go forward with the charges because there was no probable cause to go forward. And so therefore, we've adjudicated the charges in Dudley District Court, and I believe the trooper sent you an email saying the charges have been dismissed. And so the underlying foundation of the original suspension no longer exists. Indeed, the underlying foundation was not a foundation at all. And the suspension should be removed, and he should be allowed to run his business as he has for 15 years. Now, that was my understanding when we came in here today, and let me move ahead. You received an email from the trooper, as I understand, with no attachments and no forwarding evidence whatsoever, saying, I will read it. I'm not sure when it came in. I believe it was Friday afternoon the email came in.
November 1st,
November
Thursday.
1st. Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Trooper Lawrence. Ma'am, I believe is Miss Lacey. I'm working with Trooper Johnson of Sturbridge Auto Sales Investigation, just communicating that we intend to move forward with charges pertaining to fraudulent motor vehicle document. The document has an owner reassignment transaction occurred after the town suspension. So here we are today again, on the eve of having his license put back in place, when the original suspension had no basis, none. The same troopers come to you with an email, which is uncorroborated and has no evidence, saying, oh, by the way, you should deny him his career and his business because we think we have a problem. What is that problem? I don't know. I do know now, because I looked into myself. We provide you no evidence, and indeed, we're not here to talk about it. We're going to send you an email saying we're state police and this guy shouldn't be able to run his business. We were wrong before, which is not in question. They were dismissed. But here we are again, we provide you no evidence. What is notable, if you look at the email, it says, the previous one, it appears that he may have forged some RMV documents to hide the fact of selling a motor vehicle. The RMV in Southbridge is well aware of what Chasm was doing and picked up on the fact. What that really means in Southbridge, when you have a license revoked or suspended, they flag you. It's a procedure. So of course he's going to be flagged everything that happens. It turns out, as far as I can tell, the only transaction involving any vehicle from Mr. Chasm was a vehicle that he sold on July 9th. And if I may, Mr. Administrator, Mr. Chairman, pass it along to you guys, if I may approach. Would you like one, Mr. Administrator? Sure. You can share with Mary, or you two can share. That makes you move along the line.
Thank you.
Superman. This is a copy of a title of a vehicle. There's one speed. Now, you have to
I'll share it with you.
There's a copy of the title of a vehicle, which you may have seen once you pay off your car and you try and sell it. And I've got 6 months to go on mine. You'll see on July 9th, 2018, on the front side, you see a sale to a Mr. Carroll. That is before the suspension occurred. That is when Mr. Chasm sold that vehicle to Mr. Carroll. Look at the last line. Look at last line. September 11th, 2018. Mr. Carroll sells the vehicle to Mr. Fett Croninger. Mr. Chasm brings this along with another package to RMV to have the title registered. That is it. And the state police say, oh, we heard he tried to pass the title today. We think it may be a forgery. Mr. Carroll's not here today. Mr. Fett is not here today. We can confirm that Mr. Fett and Mr. Carroll sold that vehicle to each other. We didn't know we were going to have an evidentiary hearing today, but we don't need to have one. But we can confirm it for you, provide an offer of proof that that sale from Mr. Fett, you see what I'm talking about, the last line there? The last transfer of assignment? Because remember, even the email says, we believe the document has an owner reassignment transaction that occurred after town suspension. That reassignment wasn't even with Mr. Chasm. It was Mr. Carroll and Mr. Fett. And so they flagged it. Okay, fine. That is no basis, none, to deny a man his living. He's done nothing wrong. Indeed, there's no one here to say he has. I'm arguing against a ghost, effectively I may add, but even if they were to hear, I'd show them they're wrong. They haven't filed charges, they never will. The funny thing is when a lawyer gets involved, sometimes the state police can feel quiet. There was no basis for that email I sent to you, Madam Chairman. Like there was no basis for the previous suspension. I appreciate why you suspended it. I wish I had been here to argue my case. We've learned our lesson on that. But the facts are not in dispute. The previous suspension was based upon foundationless data. And the state police, in their email to you, admitted as much. The charge was dismissed. So therefore, as a matter of course in due process and equity, the suspension should be lifted, which was the intent today of this honorable board.
Well, James, there's also another problem here besides that. I mean, they're still going forward. That's why we suspended it the last time, pending, because we have two different stories, state police and Mr. Chasm's. But the other problem is there seems to be two businesses in that building, and his business had been pre-existing, non-conforming. Okay, so any change in the use or expansion, he would have to get
Special.
a special permit from the ZBA.
If I may address that. So I just want to make sure we break this argument. And first of all, I did not even know that issue was going to come today. I see Mr. Burlingame is here today, and I appreciate that, but it was never put on the board as a separate issue. But let's put apples and oranges here. His license to sell cars was suspended because they said he violated statute. It turns out he had not. The 2% email saying he's violated statute, they haven't explained how, but even if they had, I've shown you how they have not. The second issue as to why you would not, I'm not even sure they relate, but a license to sell cars allows him to sell cars. If indeed the property of which he's selling the cars is in violation of a zoning board issue or a zoning violation, okay, you may have a license to sell cars, but you can't sell at that location because you're violating the zoning. So let's be clear what we hear about procedurally. He should get his license back because it never should have been taken. It'd be like me having my license pulled by the BBO and they made a mistake, I get my license back. I may not be able to practice law in my building, but at least I can practice law, okay? So I believe on that threshold matter, the license should be put back in place because it never should have been taken in the first place. Now, Madam Chairman, you're talking about a different issue. I spoke to Mr. Burlingame's staff late last week. Ms. Fortune, then Mr. Burlingame and I spoke on the phone, and then I received an email from him this afternoon, which my office, I have not reviewed it fully yet, I do appreciate it. The assertions of Mr. Burlingame is that there's a tree company there holding the two middle bays. There's two middle bays there. Right now, there is a tree company having some trucks in there. There are trucks in there. The concern of Mr. Burlingame, which he elucidated, I haven't read it fully, but he sent an email about it, that somehow having a subtenant there is violative of the initial non-conforming use of the building. As I say, I don't believe it's pertinent to today's license agreement. Back, how it should work is the building inspector should file something with the Board of Selectmen saying that he's non-conforming and therefore it shouldn't be allowed. But let me answer it right now. With the highest level of respect, Mr. Burlingame is incorrect. The number of parking spaces available for the used cars is the same as it ever was. The two bays which are holding on occasion, the tree trucks, is no different than what was being done before there with vehicles in the bays that were being fixed as we went along. And indeed, for almost a year to a year and a half, the third bay had a third-party corporation renting space to have inspections. So that's the only difference we have there. Instead of the two bays having auto cars fixed, we now have, without a lease, they haven't even signed a lease yet. My office has not signed a lease. Nothing's been put in place. So we have the building inspector who has filed, for the record, there's nothing in writing. There's no form. I've received no notice. I've received no cease and desist. I've received nothing I can respond to. And I believe when I do respond, we'll show that it's still within the confines of what it was for years. The two bays are just holding vehicles of the same size and manner of before. And indeed, to call it non-conforming is somewhat ironic when for a year and a half, the third bay had a clearly non-conforming use, an inspection station, that was owned and rented by a third party. So if that's not violative, how is this?
Well, James, I don't think that was brought to our attention. The parking spaces may be the same, but it's a different business, and it's a change in use. A change in use is not allowed unless you have a special permit from the ZBA.
If I may ask, and I don't know if you want to give and take here, what is the, as it was for years, you have I think you all know the building, you've driven by
Yes.
it many times. There's a doorway where Sturbridge Auto Sales had an office, and you'd walk in there, it was a mess, but you walk in and talk about selling a car. Then you had a bay, another bay, which had junk and broken cars. Then you had a third bay, which for a year and a half had an inspection station. Now you have an office, which Mr. Chasm sits there, and you walk in and you buy a car, and then you have a bay and a bay, which have a tree company truck inside or nothing inside. And then you have a third bay, which isn't even being used. So I'm not sure how we have such a substantial difference, such that without formal notice, cease and desist, and ability to answer, we are going to not reinstate his license.
Because one business is a tree service business, which is not allowed
There's
in
no
that zone.
paperwork for it.
It's not an auxiliary use to his business, so he's in violation of the zoning. I personally would like to take this under consideration, keeping the suspension the way it is until we hear the state police charges going forward, and until we clear up the issue, and Mr. Casson goes to ZBA and applies for a special permit.
And I appreciate that, but I guess we're trying to put the cart before the horse, and I believe we're having no due process here. And what I mean by this is, the state police haven't filed charges, and so therefore we're putting his own issue aside, which I may, because I think we have to separate those two issues. His license was suspended on foundationless charges. I believe even Ms. Dowling, if I remember the last hearing, said something about where's our due process here, and he didn't have a chance to, so I may be wrong if I had heard the hearing, I could be wrong, but he said he didn't do anything wrong, the charges were dropped, and there are no new charges filed. I mean, the man has a right to make a living. If the charges have a basis, let them bring it, and let's go to Dudley District Court, and if he's found guilty, then of course you pull the license. But why do we have a situation where a man's living with 15 years without one violation in 15 years? We're going to pull the license again without a hearing in court.
There were violations, excuse me,
Previous.
but there were violations. If you look back in the paperwork, there's a letter, I believe 2014, 2015, about how many, I remember when Craig Moran was here, there was always a situation of having way too many cars. So don't tell us there are no violations, there have been.
As for that situation with the cars, if you recall how it played out, he was getting a ticket every day. He was getting a ticket every day, so it was $3,000 worth of fines. We went to Dudley District Court, and the Dudley District Court made a determination that every one of those tickets except one was violated, because once the ticket is given, you have a chance to go to court and defend it. And that matter has been resolved. And I don't want to take away from the importance of that issue that arose, but it was resolved. So, I mean, what we're doing right now is if we are to not reinstate, we are allowing a suspension to continue when there was no basis for the first suspension, and allowing a continuing suspension without facts to back it up.
Can I speak?
Yeah, Mike?
You've asserted several times that there's no basis for the original violation, but the violation that was actually filed with the court was that the dealer failed to keep a register in accordance with Massachusetts law. Now, he admitted to both the state police and to this board that he failed to keep that register. The reason it was dismissed is because he came into compliance with the law. So the state police apparently, or the Commonwealth apparently felt that it was not, worthwhile to prosecute it because he came into compliance. So you've asserted several times that there was no violation, and that is patently wrong. Second thing, during the hearing, I asked...
The previous
During the previous hearing, I asked some questions about lemon law violations. And the answer was, we'll get back to you. And I have not heard back about, about resolution of the lemon law violation. Also, I asked questions about whether the vehicle that went through Vermont that was sold by Mr. Kasim had been inspected in accordance with Massachusetts inspection standards, and we were supposed to get some information back as to whether that vehicle had been inspected after the fact, because the title had been totaled. It was in the state that the vehicle was originally from. So it was a total loss. So there are regulations in Massachusetts where the vehicle would have to undergo a Massachusetts inspection. And I don't know if they've undergone the Massachusetts inspection or not.
As I said, I was not if I may respond?
Yes.
I was not at the original hearing, so I can't speak to what your initial concerns were, but I can tell you this. The state police had a concern about his book and the Vermont titles. Indeed, you're discussing those Vermont titles now. It is very intriguing that there were no charges. Money and salvage titles for Vermont is serious business. If indeed it happened, they would have pursued that, and they didn't, because it didn't happen. As for the book, if you dig into if you unpeel the onion, he had a book, he just couldn't find it, and they actually went in and found it underneath a pile of junk on his desk. The book was there.
Excuse me,
Oh,
James,
no.
but I thought we were told that
Yeah.
he definitely did not have a
Right.
book. He had a lot of papers and stuff,
Right.
and pulled them together and straightened them
And
out.
it was
But
unfortunate.
that's-
There was no state trooper here to talk about these charges, and yet we're taking, respectfully, we're talking about what they believe they said then. We're talking a man's livelihood.
James, we don't doubt that, but there's been issues, there are issues, and the nonconformity in the special permit is a definite issue.
And I don't
That
want to
needs to be cleared up.
It does. But this is my only concern with that. I don't mean to cut Mr. Kudybinski or Ms. Dowling off, and you're in charge, of course. But the problem is, there's a procedure for that. I have yet to, and I mean with great respect, we've communicated, but I've yet to get a cease and desist. I mean, as you know, some of you are lawyers, some of you are not, you have to have something to work with. If there's a ZBA violation or zoning violation, you get a cease and desist letter, or how you're violating it.
Well, you could straighten it out yourself without a cease and
Of course.
desist.
But
Just-
yes, you can, but you.
And then we could have an inspection, and we'd find out there's just one business there.
And that's fine, but the problem is, we are preemptively denying a man his business based upon non-filed zoning violations. There's a procedure.
No,
Are we- Mary?
Okay. My take is a little bit different. I don't think we need to go back and justify why the license was suspended. You called it a revocation, and I think our chair was correct that we suspended it pending the outcome of the criminal proceeding that had yet to take place. So when I read this, I mean, even Trooper Johnson said his court case was dismissed, and I think he should be able to move forward with getting his used car license back. So we suspended pending the outcome of this court proceeding, and I think counsel is correct, it was dismissed. So talk about that. What Nelson's saying is really something different. That's really not why we're here tonight. I think that it is, based on what I'm hearing, it is a different business, and that does require a special permit. But I would tend to agree with counsel that getting his license back is one thing, because we suspended it not because of a non-conforming use for the other bays. We suspended it because of this court proceeding. The court proceeding was dismissed, and I think that we do have to, with all due respect to Nelson's position, I think we have to go forward and issue him a cease and desist, non-conforming, require him to get a special permit if he can get it for the tree business.
Or
It is a
respond to it in
different-
some way,
But
right.
that honestly, in my view, isn't why we were here tonight. But I will say this, so we've got Trooper Johnson telling us, or at least giving his opinion. I know, but now we have another email saying that, okay, we think that he may have forged. And again, it is alleged because nothing's been proven.
Most things are alleged.
Correct. But then he also goes on to say, I'm off tomorrow, but Trooper Lawrence will be investigating it. He has to travel now this is back on November 1st, so now we're up to November 5th. Have we heard from Trooper Lawrence at all?
It should have been on in the new stuff on your seat.
Oh, okay, I didn't, what was waiting on our seat?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
I've seen that, right?
I'm not too sure.
Can I?
Okay, Mike, do you have it
Let me
right
just-
there?
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see the last. Yeah, I can see where the rest of the board may feel differently, but at this point, he's not here tonight. I don't know how long this investigation is going to take, and we've already suspended his license once pending the outcome of that other court case, and it was dismissed. He's not here to give anything conflicting, and the last thing we heard from him on November 1st was move forward with the license. I think that he had a duty to show up tonight, with all due respect, and give us what he is going to do to pursue this allegedly fraudulent exchange, because he's put us stuck between a rock and a hard place. He's not here tonight.
No, that's true.
And he's asking us indefinitely to keep his suspension going on new grounds, and we don't have anything to back it.
This is the alleged.
Chase, I know, but I just,
Exchange.
so I probably will vote in the
Fraudulent.
minority tonight, but I think just based on what we have right now, I would reinstate his license. The reason we suspended it is no longer present, and we do have to move forward, Nelson, with a cease and desist from that other use of the property, which is not grandfathered in, like your non-conforming uses. But I see that as kind of two distinct.
Yeah, I know,
These are two separate things going on.
Cases.
I agree wholeheartedly with Selectman Dowling. I think when he originally came in, he was in violation. We suspended him on the outcome of that trial. He's come into compliance. That trial was dismissed. I don't feel comfortable suspending him further on an email that they may bring charges forward. I just think he's done what we've asked. Now, the issue with Nelson, I agree with Selectman Dallin. It's a separate issue than selling the cars. His building is in non-compliance now because of a violation from Nelson, but that's not
Theoretically.
necessarily what we're reinstating here.
You better bring in.
Yeah.
And you do have workers' compensation now, correct?
I don't have any more employees.
Okay, because we also had an issue with workers' comp.
I have no employees.
Priscilla?
The garage rental.
The only way that I would do this right now is on putting the hearing on hold.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
And asking the
is
trooper to
taking it-
show up.
Taking it
on-
under
right.
consideration and inviting.
Asking the trooper to come at the next meeting and discuss what this is. I'm not comfortable doing this. And in the meantime, Nelson can do what he needs to do regarding the rest of this property, but I'm not comfortable.
No,
At this stage,
no.
at
I mean,
this
there's-
point in
there's-
time, I'm not
with the
comfortable.
past history and too many things, and I do understand Mary's point, but, with the new possible allegations being true, and with the zoning violation, I'm not going to vote to reinstate.
Can I make a motion to?
If I could take one, try and squeeze one more vote out of this, and put yourself in his shoes. You've been in business for 15 years. Yes, you had the issue with the tickets, and that did work its way out in resolution. But you lost your license for almost 3 months in the summertime, the busiest auto time, on charges that were dismissed.
Yes,
And-
but
and-
James.
But now we have new charges that have no basis. There's
James,
no-
I don't want to interrupt
I
you,
know, but
but
please
we
do.
had
It's
to
okay.
take those seriously.
That's our job.
Safety of the people who got those cars is what this board was concerned about.
Sure.
Okay? We're not here to make life difficult for people, trust me.
I don't think you are. I don't
know.
think you are, but.
So, Priscilla, you wanted to
I'd like to make a motion to postpone the,
take it under
under consideration and reconsider it at the November, I believe it's the 19th?
Next
Or
meeting.
you could continue the hearing until the 19th.
That's
Yeah, well,
it.
it's
That's
not-
the word I was looking for, Ted. Thank
Well,
you.
it's not really a public hearing.
It says
It's
so.
just a hearing. Well, yeah, it was just,
To continue it, you could do
To
that.
continue it to the November 19th with the request that the trooper be present.
Or, if I may, or communicate that the charges weren't going forward.
I'm making a motion. So that's my motion.
okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? All in favor? 3, all opposed? 2,
I-
motion carries.
Madam-
Mike?
Chairman, I would specifically like to request that Trooper Lawrence respond to our questions they're in the minutes of our last hearing, and there were some questions asked of him that he has not responded to, and specifically regarding the vehicle that had been totaled and not at that time re-inspected. As required by Massachusetts law. I'd like those answers before our next meeting.
If I may just say that.
I'd also like to ask the building inspector for a report at that time as to the status of that building and whatever else is in there. I know you have this already, but at that continuation, to bring forward that information, and if you can email it to us ahead of time, that would be great, or to Ted, and the town administrator can send it to us, so that we have your version and your side of what has happened as well, and how that building is being used.
Well,
Mary?
so this hearing is on reinstating the license. There's nothing to stop Nelson right now from just moving forward with what he normally would do when he finds a non-conforming use.
Right.
Which is a little
is
bit
what I-
different.
well-
It's a little bit different because we're kind of tying the two into this
I
hearing.
didn't tell him not to do his job, I just asked that we get a report.
No, but you might think that that's the next thing he has to do. I mean, tomorrow you could move forward
Yeah.
with your
No,
own.
Priscilla just wanted a report.
A report.
from-
I didn't tell him not to work.
Oh, okay,
I didn't tell him.
I just saw it as tying them both together.
I want a report on the
Okay.
19th. I want to have all the information that Nelson has compiled between now and then, or
Right.
prior to this, so that when we sit here with the trooper
Yeah,
here, we have everything.
Right, I don't
Everything.
disagree with that. My point was a little different. I don't know if you understood what I was saying, Nelson.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, yeah.
I think, from what I can tell of the entire board, we all believe that they are two separate issues. And so, but to take them up at the same time would be beneficial.
If I would have two different defenses too, and two different legal bases. And if I could add, Mr. Chairman, that I get CC'd on all communications that would go to Mr. Chasm individually also. Email's
Certainly.
fine. Email's perfectly fine. I just need to make sure I keep track of what's going on.
Certainly.
Okay.
Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, next we have a request for an abatement appeal on water and sewer bill. Ed, would you like to come down, please? Would you, for the audience at home, introduce yourself, please?
Ed Galonick, Jr., actually live in Brimfield, Mass. now. Used to be from Sturbridge, but
Okay. You do realize, Ed, that you have not made your appeal to anyone in the time designated? Okay?
Yes, I do.
And by not doing that, you waived your right for an appeal,
okay.
okay? So I think we just have you here just out of courtesy, so that maybe you can understand where we're coming from. We have all the information. The board may have a few questions, but what would you like to say before we ask you questions? We have questions.
Thank you for even letting me come express this. There's been a real horror show of a bad movie over there at that property, and trying to clean it up. I'm actually buying it myself now at this point. I've talked to Gene and met with an engineer about some ideas I have for the spring. Hopefully break a bottle of champagne over it and plow it under and make it from a negative into a positive. But at this point, I'm still trying to get my ducks in a row. We thought we had the property sold, and as part of that sale, this person was going to pay all the back taxes and problem issues we had, and I just wanted to sweep it under the rug and be done with it. That fell through, and that's when I started the pursuit of trying to see if I could get some of this relieved, because it was obviously the problem or vandalism at some point. I know that I missed I think I missed my time. I don't know where that is specified, but.
Yeah, it's in the water regulations.
So I met with the water company over there. It took us, months between the police and the water and everyone else to try to figure out what happened, and we still don't know what happened. There's really no explanation. In a 10 or 12-day period in the dead of winter, you'd go through $6,000 worth of water. The only thing I can see is that it times out with a theft. Again, I could go back a long way and give you guys a pretty entertaining story, but we evicted a person who then, in order to evict him, I had to buy him a trailer, and then he put the trailer behind the subway building. He then, even though the water was shut off and the power was shut off, he went in, turned the power on, and plugged into the building. And I got a $1,800 electric bill in February. Went to the police station, they contacted him, he admitted it. We didn't have him arrested because he plugged in the building to keep his mother's oxygen machine going. It was a long, painful story. Long story short, we didn't have him arrested, we just had him move. A week later is when I got this bill. And I had proof he did the electric because I found the cord. There was no proof that he did the water, and he denied it. So, again, it's just a confluence of strange occurrences that happened, but at the end of the day, someone had turned the water back on, drained $6,000 worth of it. Shane and I went over there, could not find a broken pipe, anything other than the fact that it most likely just went down the drain. But it was the building has been locked up and basically boarded up for 8 months. So, again, I agree. If I had probably come earlier, I'm sure my case would have been stronger, but I thought it was sold, so I was just ready to move on.
Well,
but-
even at that though, Ed, if the town's at fault, if there was a faulty meter or, we broke a pipe or something, we do consider abatements. However, we've had them before, and on this one, this is similar to another one where a tenant was the cause of an exorbitant use of water, and all we advised that person on was, seek remedy through the court.
Sure. I mean, I'm not positive it was not a faulty meter. I mean, Shane looked at it for a few minutes and said, it's not the meter. But I mean, I have no way of proving that. I don't know how to test the meter to know if it was a meter or not. If it was a glitch of some sort, again, I don't know.
Well, Shane would have known. The meters are pretty accurate. They don't run backwards, and they don't usually speed up for period of time and then back to
Right.
normal, so, I don't know, the board have any questions or comments? Priscilla?
No, just, I see you're working with Dan Matt, and he was employed by us at that time. He should have known, because we've had these discussions before with him to know about facilities, that the water should have been shut off at the street. And we have had, I've been on this board 7 years, at least 10, if not more, of these, and the results are always the same.
I understand. I have
There
no,
was one that was an exorbitant
Serious, yeah.
amount, too.
yeah.
Even your father now, we had one on his street.
Right, a sprinkler.
Sprinkler,
Right,
she was sprinkling.
right.
I know your father had mentioned he went off over a couple of times and turned it off because it was just
All right.
running down the
Well,
road.
I should have had him shutting this one off if I had known.
Yeah.
And to your point, I agree with you about, no comment on that part of it, but again, that's part of why I'm here, is I'm going to buy the building out myself and go from here and hopefully make, something nice out of it. But again, I was just, I guess, taking a last chance before I do the
Well, it doesn't
closing.
hurt to
No, it
ask,
doesn't.
but we do have our, appeal process
Now, this,
through the steps, and you did speak to the finance department at first, right? And they said,
That's where I was told to start, so.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then after that,
Yeah.
Ted had wrote you a letter saying.
Yeah, no, everyone was very courteous of where to go. It's just
Yeah,
like, I mean,
yeah.
I get.
No, because we really don't have any right
Yeah,
unless we were at fault.
our hands are tied, too.
I was just about to say, this has happened so many times, and I
Yeah.
feel equally bad every time it does. But then then it's other people paying for that water bill.
Sewer.
And I wouldn't feel badly about missing the appeal, because even substantively, I can't remember the last time, unless it's a question as to whose fault it was. And we've had a few of those. But we always tell them, turn off the water. Even when we've had people who go to Florida and then they've had a leak, and they didn't turn it off
We don't
for
abate,
6
but we don't
months.
abate it.
No,
No,
but they
we
go
don't
on a
abate it.
payment plan if they can't
Right.
afford it with Barbara.
Right.
I'm not
Okay,
saying that you
like I
would
said, I
have to do
figured I'd
that.
ask before I
Yeah,
follow
this-
through with
Thank
the
you.
the closing.
This is a very large quantity of water over 10 days.
I agree.
I mean, I am shocked that nobody noticed the leakage,
building was
because
shut
what
down,
typically happens in December,
Shane said there was no leak. He even,
well, it's in December, usually what happens is pipes freeze,
Yeah, it didn't happen.
nobody's around, and
Again, with no other change, it
then
came
when
on
it
and
thaws
stopped,
out,
so.
then you have,
Yeah.
leakage of the, I mean, this is,
Yeah, no,
a lot of
Shane and I looked at it and could not find a broken pipe, and it wasn't a broken pipe because it stopped on its own, and it is odd, believe me, that's why I'm.
that's a
here.
lot of water.
It is
When you see a
criminal,
chart
that's
that
all
looks like that, you know
Yeah.
that something
Yeah.
went wrong, but
The guy stole the
You know, halfway through the first day, it started, and then,
I wish, this happened, to
Partway
be honest
through
with you,
the
not to
last
digress,
day it
this happened
stopped.
when we owned the building next door, 1730 House, which goes through a lot of water, and I wish there was something in place that at the water company where they'd say, hey, we see an anomaly or a spike of some sort, because if you're out of town or the building's closed down and you're gone a week, this is $5,000 worth of water in a week. I almost wish there was some kind of alert that they would have that would tell people,
that
we
it's
see a spike
happening.
over there, what's going on? Because that's an anomalous use, but.
that's the
It is
next
what it is.
generation of water meters. They actually have them that
Yeah.
will call the customer and say, hey, there's very high usage.
yeah.
All right,
But
well,
we
hopefully-
even put on the website, and it's on, this time of year. If
I
you're
got you.
going away for any length of time,
Have the
Water
Shut
water.
it
Shut
off,
off.
shut it off, yeah.
play safe, because we've had a few snowbirds come back, and
Yeah, it was off, I just, again, someone turned it on, wasn't off the right way, but it was off.
Right.
It
Should have
was
been off
It should've been off
the
the
street.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's
Yeah.
to your point, but.
so, sorry, Ed, but.
Anyway,
Yeah,
no problem, I'll
sorry.
hopefully be back here with better news in the spring with a
Yeah, we'll,
project.
Sounds good.
we'll be,
Yeah.
whatever it is, we'll frequent it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Is there any type of vote or anything, or motion?
To sign any.
Please.
Oh,
Yes,
Yeah, Priscilla?
Yes.
For the record, we need to take a motion.
Okay, I make a motion to not abate, to deny the abatement appeal for Mr. Galonick.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, no problem. Usually, if you vote no, a board doesn't expect an explanation, but usually when people abstain, they give a reason,
Yeah.
like they have a conflict or,
Is it-
or something. Only.
Conflict of interest.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Me
mean,
too.
it's entirely, I don't know, but I've abstained before if it's a friend of mine that comes up or that type of thing.
Ex-cousin-in-law.
Oh,
Good friend.
bad.
Take care, stay dry. Okay, so we're up to old business. Priscilla?
No?
Chase?
No.
Mike?
No.
Mary?
No.
And I have none. New?
No?
Mike?
I just wanted to mention that last week I went to the annual Massachusetts Department of Transportation conference that is held in Boston every year, and I got a lot of good information. The head of projects for the whole state came up to me and asked me what we're doing with our Trails project on Quinnebog Trail, the extension of the trail. And so I'd like to get work with the Trails Committee. I think the Selectmen should, keep informed about that project because it's entirely federally funded. It's at 75% design, and it's been sitting there doing nothing for at least four years since I've been here.
Yeah, do you know why?
Basically, it's, there's really no squeaky wheel. There's no advocate that's going and trying to get the money spent. The feds still have the money, and because they can't transfer the money or contract directly with the town, the money has to go through Mass DOT, and then Mass DOT gives us the money to do the project.
Maybe we want to investigate it and see if I can find out anything.
Yeah,
But I think,
yeah, because that's a section from, River Fakwa to
Yeah.
Westville?
Yeah, unfortunately, sometime around the beginning of the summer, the head of all projects in the state and the projects, it's Annie Sullivan from District 3, she's in projects, they came out here and they talked with Gene, and they also, I guess Tom Chamberlain was also at that meeting, but nobody else was there. And the town it's my understanding that the town administrator needs to sign some paperwork and that sort of stuff. So it's mostly just getting the paperwork done to get the project moving. But I
Okay,
think,
Ted said he'd check into it because
yeah, I just wanted to call that to
there's
the...
money.
If it's that simple, I'll sign away.
What is it, what we were talking about at the $500,000?
Yeah, it's
to
about-
complete the grant, well, not complete the Grand Trunk,
But-
but for
That
that area.
section.
To do that section of the Grand Trunk Trail.
You think it's useful after, well, depending on what Ted, to have like a joint meeting with the Trails Committee and,
Well, let Ted investigate it, and if if it's beneficial to have the Trails Committee come in and see what we need to do to get it moving, but I'd hate to see that money go back to the federal government and not be spent on our,
so it's earmarked for us, but it has to go through the Mass DOT.
yeah, because of federal DOT regulations. They can't just give it directly to the town. They're,
Try not to make life easy.
Yeah, it just one extra step of bureaucracy to slow things down.
Okay, next on the agenda, Mary, I'm sorry, do you have any new
No,
business?
I don't.
And I have none. Next on the agenda, we have minutes. We have the minutes of October 15th. Does anybody have any comment?
October,
Because I know
yeah, I
Renee mailed them out to see if we had any.
yeah, on page 3, just above the 2 or 3 paragraphs, just above where it says correspondence, that's the start of the public hearing on the new liquor license on page 4 that should say, rather than Zyka Corp. On page 4, that should be Lucky Mart.
It was, after the Zycorp one was finished, they were going to, they started talking, there was a discussion that
Right.
started, so that's what that little section is.
Yeah.
And then the actual hearing happened a little bit
After.
later.
Right.
Yeah,
We held
Okay.
it
yeah,
after.
because remember the lawyer
That's
came
right.
up and
We weren't going to, but then decided we should,
said
right.
he, according to, so. it was-
Okay. Yeah, it just ended up being a little confusing for me.
Yeah, I know, I wasn't sure how
I
to,
don't know if it's...
No, when I read that, I said, oh, yeah, that's what happened.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if... Well, but on page 4, shouldn't it say Lucky Mart rather than Zyko Entertainment?
Oh, you're right.
That's-
fix
That
that.
was the...
That
Other
probably made it
than-
even more confusing.
But, yeah,
Okay.
if you could, when they came forward on page 3, just say, prior to, that Maradia and Patel and the Lucky Mart people came forward before the scheduled time or something, just,
Yeah.
just
If
so,
anyone reads it, so they don't get confused.
so they don't
Yeah,
get
yeah.
confused, because
I know, I'm sorry.
I would actually put public hearing,
Before
extra
the-
mark, which is what I told you,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it was a public hearing, and then during the public hearing, Mary said, we don't need a public hearing, but they wanted it, so,
Well, no, I think I announced at the beginning we didn't need a public
But
hearing.
then we
he
had
wanted
it.
to- Yeah.
but, so what I'm saying
They
is
were
we
two
need,
separate.
right, but we need to say there was a public hearing then, just like we did for Ziacorp.
yeah. But which on page 4, there is the public
There is the
hearing,
public hearing.
on page 4.
I just put
Just
Ziacorp by
change-
accident.
yeah,
Oh, I'm
change
sorry.
that to Lucky Mart.
You should just change that to Lucky Mart there, and that makes it a little bit more understandable.
I'll find a way to make it.
Okay,
On the final, oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
On the page 7,
Yeah.
the approval of minutes from October 1st, I believe it's 2018. Because if it was 2017, I would have abstained. That's the only thing.
Yeah, you're right.
This one's a public hearing, new liquor license for Extra Mart.
Right.
And then we need a heading just like that, that says public hearing for
Yeah.
Extra Mart. No, that's the
No.
vote to resign. There were 2 public hearings. So we've got public hearing, new liquor license for Extra Mart, that we're changing that. But then you still do need to
Yeah, this
say,
is Lucky Mart, this is,
Lucky Mart, you mean?
what do you, this said
Yeah, the
Ziacorp.
Lucky-
Right,
it's Lucky Mart,
okay, Extra Mart, Lucky Mart. But then we,
all these marts.
all I'm trying to say is just like you have the heading for public hearing, new liquor license, Lucky Mart, I guess you're changing the Ziacorp.
Yeah, that
You
was-
actually do need one that says public hearing,
The Cinemagic.
Cinemagics, the Ziacorp. You still need a heading like that.
I have both the headings.
Yeah, she does have
I'm
one
sorry,
on
I'm
page...
just missing it.
On page 2.
Here's one.
Yeah.
Where's the other one?
The other one's the one that also says Ziacorp, but it needs to say Lucky
But
Mart.
Where? I'm not seeing
On
it.
page 4.
On page 4.
Okay, sorry, that's what I didn't say. I
That's
kept
okay.
looking
I
at
know,
page
it's-
3.
it's
I kept
a
looking
weird
at
order.
page 3. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll
So
make
if
it
you
so
just said,
clear,
you know, they
yeah.
came forward prior to the public hearing, or
Okay, yeah,
before the
yeah.
public hearing,
should be-
on page 3, it wouldn't confuse me quite as much.
Okay,
On page 5,
Yes.
under discussion of transfer of funds from warrant Article 35, is there a word in case, all one word, or is that 2 separate words, in case? Mary, you should be able to help me with that.
two
So there should be a space in between the in and the case?
I don't even see where you're talking about,
Just
under the discussion.
Just before the motion to support an amount of 11,800, right above the 800?
Oh, okay, yeah, no, it's 2 words.
Okay. It's a reserve fund transfer, so.
Okay, anything else? Mary?
Sorry, I usually like to get back to you with my changes, but I didn't this time. Page 2 at the bottom, M. Dowling stated that she would be okay if the sale of alcohol was separated. Could you change would be okay to might be okay? I don't. And then the other thing is, on page 4, where it says M. Dowling explained to Lucky Mark why she hasn't been voting in support of this process. Could you add the sentence, M. Dowling stated she is not in favor of seeking special legislation in order to exceed the number of licenses set forth by mass law.
And I got a real trite one. On page 1, under-
Wait a minute, I don't mean to interrupt, but do you know how swiftly we were moving?
No, this is,
Get to minutes.
There's always time.
page 1, Bob Breer, the Breer doesn't have to be underlined, and since everybody else had some kind of reason why they were at the meeting, Bob Breer is our, local historian.
Well,
So-
we can't put that, because
Yeah,
that's not an official title.
he's not an official
No,
title.
no.
So,
As a matter of
He
fact,
ju-
Brian Burns
is
is really
really the
a
town
historian.
historian, yeah,
Wrote
that's right.
Books about it, yeah,
History buff,
Yeah.
yeah.
so.
But- Yeah, Bob knows a little bit about Sturbridge history, more than a little.
He's our unofficial.
He's the unofficial.
Okay, is there a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. October 22nd. Comments?
I had none.
Is there a motion to approve as written?
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
I'm abstaining. I was absent, 401.
Okay, October 29th.
And under other business, the second bullet, it spells council C, it should be
Oh.
Sing that one
SEL.
out. So how's that supposed to be spelled?
Council, COUNSEL.
S-E-L.
Well, spell check does that.
Yeah, it does.
Even when you,
Right, it
Check it.
changes it, yeah.
goes
So I
back to
feel like
what
I
it
looked it
was.
up to make sure I did the right one, so I must have changed it back.
IL is a group of people. Okay, anything else? Motion to approve is amended.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, citizens forum,
There isn't any.
there isn't any. Okay,
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
I just have a question. Did we do October 29th? And I just zoned out?
Yep. You
Yes.
just zoned out.
Yeah.
Did I vote in favor?